The Arizona sun, a blast furnace in the sky, beat down on the cracked concrete of the shopping plaza parking lot. The heat rippled upwards, distorting the air like a mirage. You could practically smell the asphalt melting. A greasy aroma hung heavy in the air, drifting from Tony's Diner on the corner. Cars baked in their spaces, their hoods too hot to touch. It was one of those August afternoons in Phoenix, when only fools and tourists dared to venture outside. When the concrete turned into a broiler, and shadows offered the only escape, across the street, in front of Bob's Motorcycle Repair, 100 gleaming Harley-Davidsons were lined up in perfect rows. Their chrome sparkled and flashed in the brutal sunlight, like a warning. The Hells Angels had gathered for their monthly meetup. Bikers from across Arizona, Nevada, and even California, all coming together to talk shop, swap stories, and reinforce the bonds that made them more than just a club. They were family. They stood in tight groups near their bikes, leather vests soaked with sweat, ice-cold Budweisers in hand, watching the world go by. And that's when they saw him. Billy the Kid Thompson was 23 years old, with a mop of unruly brown hair and those wire-rimmed glasses that were always sliding down his nose, thanks to the heat. He'd been paralyzed from the waist down since a drunk driver ran a red light 7 years ago, stealing his ability to walk in an instant. But Billy refused to let the wheelchair define him. He worked part-time at the Radio Shack in the plaza, saved every dime for junior college, and dreamed of becoming a software engineer. Today, Billy had just cashed his paycheck, $240 in his wallet. 2 weeks of hard work. Enough to cover his share of the rent and maybe, just maybe, buy that new programming textbook he needed. Before we go any further, if you believe in justice, if you believe in standing up for the underdog, if you believe that there are still good people in this world, then hit that like button, drop a comment, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know where you're watching from. Because what you're about to see will absolutely restore your faith in humanity. Billy wheeled himself across the parking lot, heading toward the bus stop on the far side of the plaza. The wheels of his chair clicked rhythmically against the hot concrete. He didn't notice the 5 teenagers following him until it was too late. They materialized out of thin air. 5 guys, maybe 16 or 17 years old, all wearing matching red bandanas, and sneers that screamed casual cruelty. The leader, a beefy kid with a shaved head and a shiny gold chain, swaggered directly in front of Billy's wheelchair, blocking his path. "Well, well, well, what do we have here?" the leader sneered, his voice dripping with malice. "Look at the gimp, trying to get somewhere important." The others laughed. They fanned out, surrounding Billy in a tight circle. Billy's heart hammered against his ribs. He'd been through this before. The taunts, the stares, the senseless violence that some people seem to enjoy inflicting on anyone they considered weak. "Please," Billy said, trying to keep his voice steady, despite the fear gnawing at him. "I don't want any trouble." The leader leaned down until his face was inches from Billy's. His breath reeked of cheap cigarettes and Monster energy drink. "Trouble found you, gimp. Hand over your wallet. Phone too. Everything." For a split second, Billy considered fighting back. He imagined swinging his arm, connecting with the guy's jaw. But there were 5 of them, and he couldn't even stand. The odds were brutally stacked against him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. The leader snatched it, rifled through the bills, and grinned. 240 smackers. Not bad for a cripple. He pocketed the cash and tossed the empty wallet onto Billy's lap. "Phone!" another teen demanded. Billy handed it over, his throat constricted. That money was his rent, his food, his future, and there was nothing he could do. But something was happening across the street that none of them had noticed. Marcus Stone, president of the Phoenix chapter of the Hells Angels, had been watching from the moment the teenagers surrounded Billy. He'd seen hundreds of confrontations in his 52 years. He knew the body language of predators. He knew the look on Billy's face, that toxic cocktail of fear and simmering rage that came from being targeted just for existing. Marcus didn't say a word. He simply set down his beer and started walking. Behind him, like a tidal wave following the moon, 99 other bikers set down their drinks and followed. The leader was still taunting Billy, rocking his wheelchair back and forth, when a huge shadow fell across the group. He looked up and felt his blood turn to ice. 100 Hells Angels stood in a silent semicircle around them. Beards, tattoos, arms like redwoods, vests emblazoned with the death's head patch that even the most hardened criminals had learned to fear. And every single one of them was staring at the teenagers with eyes that promised swift and severe consequences. The leader's bravado vanished like a desert rainstorm. He stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. His friends were already running, scattering like cockroaches when the lights come on, but there was nowhere to go. The bikers had them completely surrounded. Marcus stepped forward. He wasn't the biggest man there, but something in his presence commanded absolute attention. His voice came out low and gravelly, more terrifying than any shout. "You boys picked the wrong day to be cowards." He turned to Billy, and his expression softened. "You okay, brother?" Billy nodded, still too stunned to speak. In the space of 30 seconds, his entire world had been flipped upside down. The predators had become the prey. Marcus looked back at the teenagers. 2 of them were already crying. The leader had wet himself, a dark stain spreading down his jeans. Marcus almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "Here's what's going to happen," Marcus said, his voice a low growl. "You're going to give this man back every cent you took. Then you're going to apologize. And then you're going to think very carefully about the choices you make from now on. Because if I ever hear about you targeting anyone vulnerable again, what happens next will make this look like a friendly warning." The leader's hands trembled as he pulled Billy's cash from his pocket. He handed it back, unable to meet Billy's eyes. The phone followed. Then came the apologies, stammered and tearful, words tumbling over each other in a torrent of terrified remorse. But Marcus wasn't finished. "Get on your knees," he ordered. "All of you." The teenagers dropped like puppets with their strings cut. 5 boys kneeling on the scorching concrete, sweat and tears streaming down their faces. "Now you're going to tell this man exactly what you were going to do with his money, his rent money, his food money. You're going to look him in the eye and tell him why you thought it was okay to take everything from someone who has already overcome more than you will ever understand." What followed was an education, one by one. The teenagers confessed. They'd been scheming to score some drugs, a new video game console, maybe some flashy jewelry, just plain stupid stuff, meaningless things. Things that would have cost Kevin his apartment, his shot at junior college, his self-respect. Kevin listened to their pathetic excuses in complete silence, and when they were done talking, he did something that shocked everyone present, including even Marcus himself. "I forgive you," Kevin said, quietly, but with force. His voice, surprisingly, was steady, even stronger than it had been before. "I forgive you because someone needs to show you that there's a different way to live. What you did was wrong. But you're young. You can still change. I hope you do." Marcus stared at Kevin with something very close to awe. The kid, this slight young man, had more raw strength in his spirit than most full-grown men possessed in their entire bodies. The teenagers were released with a stern warning from Marcus. and the clear understanding that the Hells Angels Phoenix chapter would be watching them very closely. They ran off and didn't dare look back. But the story doesn't end there, not by a long shot. Marcus personally walked Kevin to the bus stop. On the way, they talked. He heard about Kevin's accident, his burning desire to become a software engineer, his desperate struggle to juggle paying for junior college while working a dead-end part-time job. As Kevin's bus rumbled up to the curb, Marcus discreetly pressed something into Kevin's palm. It was a thick, sealed envelope. Kevin hesitantly opened it, and his eyes widened as he saw $500 in crisp, brand new bills. His eyes darted up to panicked. I cannot accept this. You can, and you will, Marcus said, his voice leaving no room for argument. Consider it a scholarship from some guys who happen to believe in you. There's also a business card in there. My cousin runs an IT company downtown. He's always looking for bright interns. You call him Monday morning. You hear me? Kevin's hands trembled as he clutched the envelope tightly. Tears streamed down his face. But these weren't the bitter tears of defeat. No, these were completely different. These were tears of hope. Why? Kevin choked out, his voice thick with emotion. Why would you do this for a total stranger? Marcus smiled, a genuine, almost gentle expression flitting across the hardened biker's face. Because you showed those punks mercy when they deserved none. That takes more guts, more raw courage than anything I've ever done in my life. The world needs more people like you, Kevin. We're just making damn sure you get the chance to become one of them. Before we wrap up, we want to ask you a direct question. What would you do if you witnessed someone vulnerable, being attacked, being preyed upon? Would you step in, even if it meant putting yourself at risk? Would you stand up to protect a complete stranger? Let us know in the comments below, using the hashtag #DarnJusticeRises. To show the world that you stand shoulder to shoulder with Kevin and Marcus, because sometimes, just sometimes, the very people society casually dismisses as outlaws are the ones who understand the true meaning of honor. Far better than anyone else, Kevin boarded that bus that day, clutching not only his overdue rent money, but also a brand new scholarship and a genuine shot at a real career. He called Marcus's cousin promptly the following Monday and began his internship just 2 weeks later. Within a year, he had graduated at the very top of his class and was immediately offered a full-time position. But perhaps the most remarkable change happened to the teenagers themselves. 2 of them, showing clear remorse, sheepishly showed up at the motorcycle shop a month later, nervously asking Marcus if there was anything at all, they could do to make amends, to set things right. He put them to work, sweeping floors, polishing chrome, cleaning bikes, doing all the dirty work that nobody else wanted to do. Today, both of them are probationary members, prospects for the Hells Angels Phoenix chapter, slowly learning the true meaning of what it really means to be strong. Kevin still visits the shop occasionally. He brings coffee and donuts for the crew, sits around with the bikers, and listens raptly to their stories. They call him Little Brother. Affectionately, he calls them family. And every time he sees someone vulnerable being targeted, being taken advantage of, he remembers that powerful lesson that Marcus taught him that day in the shopping plaza parking lot. True strength is not about what you can take from others. It is only and ever about what you are willing to give.